In the fractured heart of Rio de Janeiro's penal system, a new order was not born from chaos, but from calculation. It was the early 90s within the walls of the Ia Grande Penitentiary. The Red Command had long held a monopoly on violence, ruling through fear and erratic brutality. But inside the humid cells, a dissident group of leaders saw a flaw in the old ways. They envisioned a criminal enterprise built not just on blood, but on alliances and business acumen. Thus, the Amigos dos Amigos, the ADA, was established. Their foundation was a handshake between two powerful inmates who understood that war was expensive while diplomacy was profitable. They carved out a new syndicate, rejecting the impulsive violence of their rivals in favor of a structured hierarchy. Their ambition was not to burn the city down, but to own it. The rise of the ADA was surgical. They expanded into the southern zone, claiming the favela of Rocinha as their central fortress. Rocinha was not merely a slum, it was a sprawling, vertical city of brick and cement, housing thousands of souls and generating millions in revenue. Under the strategic command of the faction's leadership, the hill transformed into a heavily fortified state within a state. Checkpoints were established, the drug trade was streamlined, and a tense stability settled over the winding alleys. To the residents, the faction was the law, the judge, and the executioner. However, in the underworld, stability is often a mask for brewing betrayal. The drama of this empire unfolded through the eyes of Mateo, a mid-level enforcer stationed at the entry point of the Vallon. Mateo was no fanatic. He was a pragmatist who saw the faction as a career, a way to feed his family in a city that had forgotten them. He watched as the ADA's pact with the Third Command, initially a strategic masterstroke to encircle their enemies, began to crumble under the weight of greed and paranoia. The fracture occurred on a suffocatingly hot Tuesday. Intelligence leaked from the prisons indicated that a rival faction, seizing upon internal discord, was preparing a takeover. The order from the ADA bosses came down swiftly: hold the hill at all costs. The attack did not begin with a declaration, but with the sudden cracking snap of high-caliber rifles echoing off the concrete walls. A convoy of invaders breached the lower perimeter, armed with military-grade weaponry. The peace of Rocinha shattered instantly. The bustling market streets emptied, replaced by the deafening symphony of urban warfare. Mateo found himself pinned behind a concrete barrier, debris raining on him. This was not a skirmish, it was an invasion. Beside him was a heavily armed youth, Little J, who had joined the organization only weeks prior. The boy's hands shook as he tried to reload his weapon. In the heat of the firefight, there was no glory, only the visceral terror of imminent death. The invaders pushed forward with aggressive tactics, using the narrow, maze-like geography of the favela against its defenders. Mateo moved with desperate agility, flanking through a side alley to gain a vantage point. He saw the enemy advancement, a tactical sweep designed to decapitate the local leadership. The air smelled of gunpowder, sewage, and burning rubber. In a moment of sheer chaos, a grenade detonated near their position. The blast threw Mateo against a wall, his ears ringing with a high-pitched whine. When the dust settled, he saw Little J lying motionless, a casualty of a war he barely understood. A surge of cold fury replaced Mateo's fear. He wasn't fighting for the flag of the ADA anymore. He was fighting for survival. He rallied the remaining defenders. Their return fire suppressed the advancing wave just enough to force a stalemate. As police sirens began to wail in the distance, the state finally arriving to police the ruins, the invaders retreated, realizing the cost of taking the hill was too high. The battle lasted 4 hours, but it altered the landscape forever. Morning light revealed the scars on the architecture. Bullet holes pockmarked the colorful facades of the houses. The ADA had retained control of their fortress, but the illusion of invincibility was gone. The leadership in prison would spin this as a victory of resilience, a testament to the strength of the Friends. Mateo stood on a rooftop overlooking the affluent districts below, wiping soot from his face. He lit a cigarette, his hands steady once more. He realized that in this brutal ecosystem, there are no permanent winners. There is only the business, the territory, and the men willing to bleed to keep the machinery running. The ADA remained the sovereigns of the hill, but every king sits on a throne that can be toppled by the next bullet.